So where'd you get your job interview at?
Food Line.
Oh, nice.
Don't let it eat you.
It's funny because it's a line of food.
That's not funny, and you really should quit smoking.
Is it owned by Ted Cruz? Because it's lying.
Ooh.
Ow.
We already T-minus. Oh.
Yes, sorry. I sure that'll get edited out since it was quote political unquote.
It better, or I'm flagging this video.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. I don't want to stay extremely political, you know.
Oh, I do.
It's not a political thing, but, you know,
So,
maybe a joke here and there. It's not a big deal.
So, the part of the reason why I don't do voice activated is because when I type, you can hear it. Example.
Well, you know, if you would stop using your forehead to type with, maybe it'll be a little bit less noisy.
It's a mechanical keyboard, and it was $10 more to stealth it, and I saved $10.
I'm sure the forehead on the keyboard, and you're probably using your tongue on the mouse. So
you know what? The tongue and the forehead on the keyboard, that might work. Hold on. This is how to. Let me just move this over and
let's see if we can get him to break his keyboard.
Oh God!
being bullied already. What the heck? It's out of stock.
What did you do?
I'm trying to buy trading cards, and they're out of stock everywhere I look.
Ah.
Artificial scarcity drives up.
Can you just let me waste my money, Slade, without using big words?
No
Oh,
stock
God.
means high demand.
Yeah, but you said the word artificial, and in my mind, that's too big of a word.
They will deliberately manufacture scarcity as a way of driving up the perceived value. You consumer.
I'll have you know that is extremely racist.
Consumist?
Yes, because everybody knows when you say consumer, you're basically talking about stupid.
Okay, well.
Wow. T-minus.
I am full of it.
Oh, yes, you are. That's why we love you.
Whoa, now don't be putting words in my mouth.
I heard Beaver say that, so yeah, he totally said that earlier. Dude, he was saying some really, really interesting things about you earlier, Slade.
Oh, you bet I am.
Excellent.
Are you sick, Beaver, or are you just imitation coughing?
I think it's the gum I was chewing.
Ah.
You're supposed to chew it, not breathe it.
Yeah.
Look, man, it's my life. Let me live it.
It's my party, and I'll cry if I want to.
It's my life, and it's now or never. Take it away.
You're both very poetically beautiful in your voices.
You're very poetically beautiful in your voice.
You both sing purdy.
The voices that will conquer the zealous side of the internet. All will fall before us.
What a villainous laugh there, Slade.
Well, that would be a good tie-in to today's topic, since it's about actions involving the villainous antagonist.
That's exactly what I was hoping. That's what I was trying to tie in. Actually, I was hoping you'd pick it up.
Yes.
Oh, are we talking about that nerd thing again?
We are going to talk about the thing now, Beaver. So, are you ready to?
Oh, I'm ready to insert meaningless conversation.
All right.
Wait, I did. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. Most kind of you. All right. Here is the basis of the topic. There is a trope that I have seen in certain animes that yes, thank you. That when I noticed it, I had a reaction to it that upon reflection,
Was it allergic?
yeah, much like I'm allergic to you, Beaver. Ha 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 ha. Can't wait to kill you in Minecraft.
Did you
Here,
just say Minecraft?
yeah, force a bucket of lava down you.
It's griefing.
All right, here is the trope. The trope is that you will have a villain who has committed, ridiculously evil crimes, like basically murdering the loved ones of the protagonist. And at some point during the anime, the villain will go through a kind of a repentance cycle where they become sorry for what they've done. And then the protagonist will go from there as though he completely forgives and forgets the whole matter, and that's the end of it, And when I noticed this trope, and I'll mention probably the biggest one I remember seeing it in and just noticing it was the anime Black Cat. And when I recognized the trope and I had my reaction to it, I had to think about, why did I react that way? Because of my upbringing plus my reaction to behavior of one of my parents. I'm very much a forgive and forget guy. I've had some cases where I've had, basically slander done against me. And I'm on, good terms with the person now because, the matter was, there was some repentance and the matter got dropped. But I still had what I view a negative reaction to the trope. And I guess I tried to figure out why I had that reaction. Then it came to me. In most of the media that I have consumed in my life, that has been primarily produced in America, it's American, it's either Hollywood or TV or whatnot, and you have had a villainous character who has committed similar crimes, the conclusion of the matter is always punishment. The villain has received his comeuppance. Even if the villain may have a moment of contrition and whatnot, the punishment has always been there. Whether it be either a death or some other kind of typical ending for him, it's always there. And it kind of jarred me to think about, why would I have such a negative reaction personally to the trope if it actually reflects my actual thinking that I have actually seen in my lifetime. So that got me to thinking about, where did this reaction come from if it's not based upon both what I have learned and what I have personally accepted in my behavior. And then it reminded me of a video I had seen a few years ago about this thing called the Hays Code. And now we'll go into a little historical synopsis. The Hays Code
Thank
was
you, Professor Slade.
Yes, that's that'll be another topic we can talk about later. The Hays Code was developed in the 1920s. It was a reaction by the movie industry to self-censor itself in order to prevent having the government come in and censor it. Regarding there was a death, and the print media, the tabloid media, who had apparently, there were some individuals who basically had it in for the movie industry, and so they had basically instigated what should have been basically a libel case. You know, they did libel against an actor claiming that he was the one who had basically murdered this actress. And they played it upon the public and created a hype about it. And so it basically resulted in the movie industry creating a commission, and they created this set of codes that had to be followed by the movie industry. And they, you know, for instance, if someone commits a crime in a movie, the movie is required by the code to always show the antagonist receiving his comeuppance. Always. You can never have someone do anything crime-like in a movie and not actually have the matter resolved in justice.
Now, what's a comeuppance?
Comeuppance.
It's a Muppet.
I've been hearing Muppet this entire time he says that, so I was very, very confused. He does something bad and he receives his Muppets?
Yes, it's that eagle. That eagle comes up. Everyone remembers Sam the eagle.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
From the
comeuppance. It's the Muppet Show. Anyway, so it created a reaction. It was a very strong reaction, and I kind of feel bad that I have allowed this basically what boils down to it's very much a manufactured thing, because if you look in real life, art is not imitating life in this matter. And it kind of bothers me that I have allowed this to have it, to kind of mold my thinking. Not that it actually, I'm hoping it doesn't actually have an impact on how I actually behave, because, like I said, I would prefer the forgiving and forgetting aspect, because it typically, it will, again, if the person's actually sorry for what they've done and they've, taken steps about the matter to rectify it, then hey, you know what? If you let go and they let go, then, there's peace and you can go on with your lives.
Yeah, a lot of people have difficulties doing that. It's just a sense of vengeance that they get, when something bad happens. It's just, you just have this mental picture of the person who committed that badness against you, and due to the media around you, it kind of teaches you that you're supposed to get out some sort of act of vengeance, or that you're supposed to just be upset about the whole thing and not let go of it.
You can never have closure personally unless something has been done to balance the scales. But it's the balance is always a matter of violence.
Yeah, exactly. It kind of makes you think about... It really just kind of makes you think, if that Hays Code wasn't there, if society and the government actually did get to where they could censor the media industry, it's had such a major impact, the media industry, on culture today in society. Just imagine how different it would be if it was censored.
Well, it was censored. I'm just saying, what if it had been the government that had been censoring it?
Exactly, yeah. Censored by the government.
Well, for starters, if the government had gotten involved, we would still be dealing with it, because the Hays Code was eventually dropped.
Oh, really?
Well, yeah. I mean...
Oh, yeah, that makes sense, yeah.
I mean, the Hays Code is, I think it was during the 60s when you had the basically the Cultural Revolution, and the movie industry had to adapt because the business was basically dying because of several aspects of their business, but the Hays Code was part of it. So the Hays Code eventually got dropped, And because, obviously no one ever thinks about that whole print media, mass-produced hysteria about something that wasn't actually true, because, the actor in question was eventually exonerated. But, if you looked at the news articles that were being printed about him, they were basically talking about he was going to go to the gallows and die for what he did.
Yeah.
Even though there was no evidence, it was all just generated hype. But, the cultural impact of that code is still with us today. And I'm trying to think about any kind of American-produced media that has shown a similar trope. Now, I'm sure there's been something out there, but whatever it is, it's certainly not something that would be considered mass media. I mean, can you think of a AAA movie that's come out that has shown that kind of contrition that leads to a forgive and forget type of environment?
Yeah, I was about to say, that really doesn't seem like something that you would see, not just in America, though, in most of the Western world. Mostly because of how American media, when it first started out, really kind of impacted a lot of the other starting producers around the world. Definitely Western culture. So I can see how it would be rare, if at all, to see anything other than the American portrayal or the American way of thinking.
Well, actually, I could imagine the French media proving itself insular enough to show whatever their... That's the thing, is I don't know what their specific cultural tropes are in that regard. So, I mean, French,
Exactly. French.
They're deliberately distinct, even if they have to stoop to eating snails to prove how different they are. And I'm kidding. Escargot sure is. My sister loves it, especially.
I'd like to try it. I like to try weird, exotic stuff like that.
Actually, I think they had it at the sushi place. So I might actually have an opportunity to try some escargot. That is.
Escargot at a sushi place.
She had frog legs there when we went there, and it was pretty good. I was like, wow, this is...
I love frog legs.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
I'm sure Kermit will, he'll get by.
Beaver, you think that your videos that you make in the future are going to be impacted by this way of thinking now?
I don't make videos anymore. I've retired.
You've retired?
Actually, well, I already told you I'm taking my channel in a different direction.
Wait, no you didn't.
Yes, I did. I told you I'm moving from gameplay to board game reviews.
Oh, that's right, you did say that.
I'm just waiting for free time to free up. Wow. So then I have more time to focus, because I don't really enjoy making gameplay anymore, but I feel like scripted.
Interesting.
So,
yeah,
I don't know how that will really affect me. I watch a lot of normie movies, so I can't think of any movie where the bad guy went unpunished.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. It's not something that you could just readily think of on the spot unless you know the genre and can be in a position to just think about it. I mean, it's not something that you see.
Man, I could probably Google and find. Okay, phew. Sorry, I placed an order, and it took them like 7 minutes to send the confirmation email, and I thought I was getting bamboozled.
They're taking your money from the internet and running.
Thought they were. I mean, I could probably Google and find.
I don't feel like I'm getting quite the mileage out of this topic that I thought I would.
Let's see. I Google movies.
There's movies where I feel like the good guys quote unquote win. Like, have you seen Magnificent Seven?
Yeah.
Like, the new one. Where it's
Oh
like
no, not the new one.
New one's okay. I mean,
I still prefer Seven Samurai.
yeah, I've yet to watch that. I don't know. I just like the movies where it's like the good guys are like, we saved the day, and then it's like, yeah, but literally, who'd you say? Like, man, like, have you seen The Kingsman? I don't know.
Actually, I can think of a few movies where, I mean, you still had technically you had the good guys winning, but it was still left in a situation where it was, and even some games too. I mean, I didn't play it, but I watched the reviews and a couple of the.
Open mic. There we go.
The last Wolfenstein game. You know, where you're basically fighting Nazis on the moon.
I never played Wolfenstein.
Nazis on the moon.
Yeah, you're fighting Nazis. And the funny thing is, you know, that at the end of the game where you've technically won, but the Nazis still are the world government. You know, there's no... the impact of your actions is on a very small scale. You've beaten this one scientist dude, but, you know, the Nazis are still in charge, so...
Yeah, kind of like, it's kind of like, I guess in a way, now forgive me if I'm wrong, but this is the feeling that I got from the Star Wars movies. With basically, let's see, I think it was Return of the Jedi, and then the new one that was supposed to be
Force Awakens.
Place after that. Yeah, Force Awakens. Basically where the Empire is still in existence and is still ruling, yet the rebellion. I don't know the way the Return of the Jedi left off. It kind of left this vibe that the Empire was gone and that there was a new government coming. And
because you saw all those revolts on those different planets, including Coruscant.
Exactly, and Coruscant is the kicker. I mean, that was the seat of the Empire, isn't it?
Yeah.
So with the rebellion on Coruscant, then basically, would that say that the Empire is still there, just not in as much strong as a presence it had?
Well, guess what, bud? The new Star Wars Battlefront 2 game campaign, which is canon, focuses on Return of the Jedi up until Force Awakens. So you'll have your questions be answered.
Yeah, basically, if the Empire goes away, then what's the movie going to be about?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you kind of see the issues that they've had, say, with the Old Republic games, where, you know, I mean, it was really funny because I remember the fact that the original release story was eventually the Empire fails in their bid and they're defeated by the Republic, but the battle keeps going on.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that popped in my head was the original RoboCop movie. Yeah, RoboCop eventually bops the antagonist, but technically the bad guy, as far as the scenario goes, is still the guy in charge of that company that is taking over the police of the city. You know, the city's still being policed by a corporation, which is not a good thing. You know, so the movie kind of had that bittersweetness to it of, yeah, RoboCop got that one guy who was going to create basically a crime lord position for himself, but society's still not in a good place. Or maybe, say, the original Godfather movie, where at the end of the movie, oh, hey, you know what, yeah, I'll take the position, become the Godfather, because that's apparently what I'm supposed to do, even though I don't want to be a crime lord. Boo-hoo. Woe is me. I guess those kinds of bittersweet endings, those kind of dark endings, is in fact goes against what the Hays Code would have shown.
Mm-hmm.
Because if, basically the Hays Code said that, when the movie's over, everything better be flowers and rainbows, basically. I mean, it's not necessarily true, but it's kind of the idea that, hey, we're not going to show anything that's going to betray a dark ending, because then our industry is going to get blamed for basically what is real life. What our society really is, which is a dark. I mean, let's not point out how our culture is being manufactured by people who do not have our best interest anywhere in their planning. So, we gotta portray something to escape that. Oh dear. We're veering into the political realm now, aren't we? Sorry.
Ooh.
All right, Beaver, time to break the dam here.
Happy topic? Okay, so this is old, but you want to be happy today?
Maybe. It depends. What have you got?
Do you know the popular game Counter-Strike Global Offensive?
Yes.
Okay, so basically, do you know what ESEA is?
ESEA? No, I do not.
Okay, ESEA is basically a service that you pay monthly for, and it's basically it allows you to play tournament games for Counter-Strike. So you pay your monthly subscription, and then you play games through them, and this is how you get noticed by like pro teams and stuff. Because Counter-Strike's normal matchmaking system is so full of hackers that it's crazy. So people will pay the monthly subscription.
So you're paying to play in the minor leagues.
Yeah, and then you can move up into the majors. So there's a streamer. What was his name? Was it Loop? Yeah, Loop. All right, and he plays ESEA, and he was born with a rare genetic disorder. He is legally blind and deaf, but he can still like play and hear. So he's playing ESA, and he joins every game, and he lets people know that he is legally blind and deaf. And this one game he joined when he was streaming, he actually got bullied, and they actually kicked him off the team. Like, they vote kicked him off. And funny thing is, when he got vote kicked, he was top fragging, which is code for he had the most kills on his team. So basically, that happened mid live stream, and so then that Reddit saw that, and then they brought it to everyone's attention. And now Loop has a contract signed by Envious, which is a professional Counter-Strike team, to be their streamer. And he's partnered with Twitch, and he's a better Counter-Strike player than me, for being brutally honest. And he went from 10 viewers to just over, averaging 3,000 viewers. He's gotten over $5,000 in donations. Professional players are playing with him. So,
and this is all from being vote kicked off of a game?
This was all from being vote kicked off of a game. And he was like, they were making fun of him, like, because he posted a video, and Okay
then.
He was vote kicked for no reason. They vote kicked him because people on the
internet are jerks.
Yeah, they were being jerks. The people who vote kicked him got banned from ESCA also.
Oh wow!
For vote kick abuse, because there was no reason to vote kick him.
That's awesome.
Someone posts. So there's your happy feeling of the day.
Yeah.
They got their Muppets.
I was thinking about that actually. They got their Muppets.
Sam the Eagle came on, and
Sam the Eagle banned them.
That would make a good meme there.
Also, I bought a David Bowie vinyl record the other day. It's really all I can talk about.
Holy smokes! I've got a vinyl record of David Bowie in the house somewhere.
I forgot you like vinyl.
Just saying, it could be worth a lot of money.
Oh please! I know vinyl's making a comeback, but
It is, which is really surprising. Because usually some people ask me why I collect vinyl. I'm like, I really don't know. If I'm being brutally honest. I think I collect them because I like the sound. You know, that little fizzle and pop.
well, wow, I don't have a David. Where did my David Bowie album
Hit
go?
that start button, and then it starts turning. And you hear
Ferb
the
probably
pop
sold it.
up
Ferb
in
sold it
the
that
middle,
he could buy. Ferb sold it so that he could buy
and then
a
it starts
glowing
playing.
headset.
It starts playing.
All I've got is a bunch of Police, Sting, and Thin Lizzy.
It's going to start playing any second now. There it is. And that's copyrighted, so let me stop that.
Yes, please stop.
There he goes.
Yes, because obviously we can't have fair use in a video. Oh, but wait, we're not actually a critique of music, so never
Yeah.
mind.
I'll critique it. It's good.
That still isn't going to get you anywhere with the corporations.
Then there's always that myth that if you keep it under 10 seconds, it's good. That's just a myth. It's not actually true.
You're just...
Mm-hmm. I learned a lot about stuff like that when I was first trying to make sure everything I was doing video-wise was it was copyright friendly. And I had heard that. Actually, no, I didn't hear. A lot of the YouTubers I like to watch, even some really, really unpopular ones, they do a lot of stuff that make you think, okay, how does he have the right to do that? You know, just with certain music or with certain videos or whatever. So I looked it up just to see how, and either number one, they're doing it illegally, or number two, they somehow got permission. And the article I read just went on about how there's a lot of myths out there that if you keep it under 10 seconds, that it's copyright friendly.
That's not true. And
No, it's not true at all.
I mean, I've seen, like, Jim Sterling does his copyright deadlock thing all the time, where he plays snippets of music just to keep the companies that are going to, you know, try to put ads on his videos because they're using their trailer footage from their games, and he basically blocks that by violating copyright law. And that's his, you know, it's kind of a little joke. So in order to keep my fair use stuff fair, I have to violate copyright law deliberately.
Mm-hmm.
So it's...
Now, how does he do that? What's he doing?
Okay. Certain video game companies try to monetize other people's videos even though it qualifies as fair use, because they don't care. It's an automated system. It lets them do it, so they do it just because they can't. So in order to, because the videos that he produces in this case are meant to be ad free because he has a Patreon. The people giving him money through Patreon are covering his, you know, they're providing the profit from his business venture. So he says, fine, this video series is not going to have ads. But the certain companies, when they see, you know, the content, which is under fair use and is considered fair use, but they still will flag it as it's our content because it has our, you know, our video content there. So run ads on it because we want the money from it. So he discovered that, hey, if I put in other people's content who are going to do the same thing, when the automated system sees the different things, it prevents anyone from running ads because there's no mechanism for sharing the ad revenue. You have two different companies saying, "Hey, our content's in this video, therefore, and we want ads to run and we want the profit from the ads." But the programming says, "Well, I can't split it between the two of you, because it's not in my programming. So no one, no ads run. No one's going to gain profit from it. So it's a spiteful little thing that works because of the programming involved. And obviously the companies aren't going to raise that much of a fuss because we're talking about a few dollars. Mm-hmm. No one's going to go to the expense of trying to force YouTube to change their programming so that they can have the ads run and have some kind of mechanism that tries to figure out how much of the ad revenue belongs to which company. So basically, he violates copyright in order to protect his copyright. Because what he does falls under the fair use, but corporations are not going to respect the fair use until such time as someone actually has a legal precedent set. So basically what I would, the humorous thing to see is going to be some YouTuber who, for whatever reason, finds himself with some kind of war chest of millions of dollars, put a video, have one of these companies sit there and flag it and put ads and get the revenue, and then take them to court, which of course would require a lot of money because that's how this corporate law is whoever has the most money wins the case. It doesn't matter right or wrong. So if they could get a court case up and set a legal precedent that says corporations have to actually abide by the fair use statements of the copyright law, and the end result of that is going to be, of course, that these automated systems can't be automated anymore. They're going to have to go to the cost of actually having someone monitor and review and determine, does this qualify as fair use? If it is, okay, the corporation can't claim it. But that's never going to happen until someone decides to pony up enough money to fight a corporation in a courtroom.
That's really interesting, actually.
And I'm actually, certain corporations, I could easily see them throwing millions of dollars in order to keep that precedent from being set, even though the money they're making from this, the ad revenue would never come up to the figure they would spend to protect it.
That's absolutely ludicrous.
Well, it's, that's the world we live in. I mean, now granted, this is America where corporations are, rule society. I could, you don't see quite the same thing over in Europe because they actually have legal precedents there that put consumers usually at least almost equal to corporations. So, for instance, that you remember I told you about the old MMO Warhammer Online. Someone in Europe set up an emulator code for the game. And now technically the original publisher doesn't have the copyright for it anymore, so they're not going to do anything. But in Europe, because I bought the game, I went and bought the game and played it, and I put money into this product. But I can't play my product anymore because the servers are gone because of all the usual nonsense of corporations fighting over who has rights to what. In Europe, the server can stay up because in Europe, because someone bought the game, they have a right to use their product. Mm-hmm. So that emulated server is probably going to stay up there forever because the corporation who owns the copyright can complain about it, but people already paid the money for the product.
That makes me curious if I can actually find an emulated City of Heroes server in Europe.
In Europe?
Look it up. I mean, I know there's emulators up for Star Wars Galaxies.
That's really cool, actually, because that's one thing that's always griped me about an MMO. With the cost of the base game and then the subscription fee that you had to pay, I mean, I spent hundreds of dollars into City of Heroes. I gave hundreds of dollars to NCSoft. And just because they decide that City of Heroes is no longer what they want to go for in a development company, even though it was their flagship game at the time and probably is what NCSoft was about already, regardless of whether they liked it or not, because they took off the servers, I can't play my game anymore that I spent hundreds of dollars in. That's what's always kind of griped me and really bugged the daylights out of me.
Well, Europe is very much pro-consumer in a lot of ways, which is, it's good that we still have a few places on the planet that are like that, because it sets it makes a stark contrast for people to look at. And not all corporations are necessarily like that. I mean, there has been an EverQuest emulator that's been up for years, and it has been tolerated by both the original publisher and the current company who has bought the rights to the original game. They basically have told the people running the emulator, well, here's some guidelines, and if you follow these guidelines, we're not going to, raise a fuss about it. And the people have basically followed the guidelines.
That's really cool.
I mean, it's a 17-year-old game, almost 18-year-old game, and it's very nice to see that it's pretty much always going to be there. I mean, I'm never going to actually play the original again simply because of my issues with the current company who's managing it. I'm not going to play that emulator because I've heard horror stories about the admins of the emulator. But it's still nice to know that, hey, I bought a product and I can still use the product I paid for if I choose to.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there are other games out there that I would, I wouldn't spend a lot of time in it, but I would like to feel like I could still, if I wanted to, jump back in and horse around. For all its faults, there was something about the environment that was created for Tabula Rasa.
I remember that game.
Yeah. It had its faults, but you know what? I liked the environments they created, and I liked how the gameplay of the various classes worked out. It was very MMO-like, but I still enjoyed it, and Ferb enjoyed it. He actually was there playing on the servers right until the end when they finally closed them.
Yeah.
So he was, and what's really funny is they basically were going to have this tower defense as their very final aspect of the game of, the mobs, the NPC antagonists were going to just overwhelm everywhere. And when you finally died from that particular event, and when everyone was dead, then the servers came down, and people sat there and held out for hours after they had determined they wanted to shut everything down.
Wow.
They kept it going for as long as they could by defending a handful of places. So, and that's a cultural thing that it's a shame that the company that pulled the plug and they had some value there that they just turned their back on.
It was NCSoft.
Yeah.
They have this thing where they get on this new idea that they think is really, really cool, really great concepts. And a lot of the times, they are really great concepts of games. And sadly, they get to the point to where they release the game, they give it a few patches, they expand on it a little bit, and then suddenly regardless of what the player base is like, they decide to do a complete turnaround and no longer support the game. It's cookie cutter with them. They've done it multiple times, and I don't know why. Because they're a good company in the sense they have really good developers. Most of the art style in their games is pretty good, and it's just such a shame to see that happen so many times for such a talented company in a lot of ways.
The executives are all magpies, perhaps. Ooh, shiny.
Oh well, I think we can call it. What?
Yeah, I also noticed the thing about NCSoft is how they pull that stunt, but they are so militant in their closing the door on what they just turned their back on.
Oh yeah, extremely, and they're not remorseful at all. I mean, basically, the player base will complain, they'll give petitions, and they're not compassionate to the player base when it comes to this stuff. They're just like, hey, no, it's gone. Deal with it.
So I'm kind of curious, has this had an impact overall on their consumer loyalty? Do they put out games and people look at it and say, oh, it's run by NCSoft, I'm not going to waste my money?
Actually, one of my best friends, who I was going to have fill in the podcast just in case we had a dropout.
You mean like this?
He was going to... we played City of Heroes at the same time. We met on City of Heroes. We became best friends on City of Heroes. I actually was the best man in his wedding, and it was the first time I ever met him a couple of years ago. From us meeting on City of Heroes. Well, nowadays, when he sees that, he just says, oh, NCSoft. They're not going to care about me as a customer. No, thank you. Regardless of the game. There's been some really good games that are still out now that I've tried to get him into, but he just sees NCSoft and just has a really bad taste in his mouth.
What is NCSoft current, as far as MMOs go, what is NCSoft currently running?
Guild Wars 2. I think it's Guild Wars 2.
No, I think that's... Shoot.
Yeah, it's Guild Wars 2. Let's see.
Alright.
NCSoft... Yeah, NCSoft is Guild Wars 2. That's probably their biggest game right now. Surprised they haven't killed that. With how popular it is, I'm surprised they haven't killed
it. Oh, we're having cultural impact. Quick, abandon ship. Wow. I just turned around and looked at my shelf that has all my old media on it. I'm staring at my old Warhammer Online disc or box.
So NCSoft is the publisher and parent company of ArenaNet, which is the main development team for Guild Wars 2. And they've given ArenaNet free reign over development of their games. So
that's why it hasn't been killed, because ArenaNet, it's their baby.
Actually, well, it was the same thing with City of Heroes, though. I mean, it was what was the name of the company? But it was a sub team below NCSoft. Apparently that's their thing. They don't like to just go into their own thing. They like to contract out these development to other teams. But City of Heroes was the same way. And eventually NCSoft was like, hey, yeah, we have the right to it. So regardless of whether the development team wants to continue or not, too bad. And actually, a lot of the team, I think I read in an article, they wanted to keep going with it because they loved City of Heroes, but NCSoft just wouldn't let them because it was a corporate thing.
Oh
well, I think we can go ahead and call the podcast now. It's been a good 50 minutes so far.
All right, I guess. Bye.
Beaver, did you want to say anything for closing words? Okay.
Ooh. All right.